and happy fall. Bobbie Bensur here from the Children's and Teen Services Division at Baker and Taylor, fondly known as CATS. I hope everyone is having a great start to the season. You're gearing up for some fun programming like NaNoWriMo coming up in November. To support that, we have a really wonderful guest here today, Louise Baigelman, of a really, really wonderful publisher whom I recently discovered and am now in love with, a nonprofit publisher called StoryShares. Hello, Louise. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Bobbie. Thank you so much for having me.
So for those of you unfamiliar, StoryShares, again, is a nonprofit publisher specializing in high interest fiction for all readers with a special mind and interest in supporting readers with below average or below age level reading capabilities, what our industry calls high-low material, or what StoryShares and Louise's team has now called quick reads. Is that right, Louise? That's your new way of describing it?
Yep. Quick reads for teens and adults.
Awesome. Yeah. And we know how, in demand this material is, how important it is to all you librarians out there to have really quality material for high-low readers in your collection. So we wanted to put a special spotlight on StoryShares today. So Louise, can you share a little bit about the MO behind StoryShares, its genesis, and what you're looking to achieve and how you're going to be expanding in the coming years?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so StoryShares is, as you mentioned, it's a literacy nonprofit. We are focused on spreading a love of reading by generating and providing new content that is engaging and compelling for preteens and up at any reading level. And so StoryShares began as an idea from initially my classroom experience, where I was a middle school English as a second language teacher, and I worked with students who were newcomers to the U.S., were at varying degrees of English proficiency. They were learning to speak English and to read and trying to keep up in all of their classes. And one of the huge challenges that I had as their reading teacher was that these students were reading far below their maturity level. So they were, 12 or 13, but reading at a first or a second grade level. And because of that disconnect, it was really challenging to find books that I could offer them that they could read and actually wanted to read. No sixth grader wants to read Curious George, but they weren't able to access the level of content that was intended for sixth graders. And so that was where I first noticed the problem around this gap of engaging, diverse, mature content at a range of lower reading levels. And after I left the classroom, I worked at a family foundation where they were also interested in this same gap of content for students who had fallen behind in reading. And within that foundation, we had the opportunity to launch an experiment for a solution for this problem, which was a writing contest. And that first writing contest ran for 4 months, and we did a big call for submissions to see if we could engage writers and educators with some guidelines and some incentives to create the kinds of stories that we wanted for millions of readers around the world. And that first contest was incredibly successful. We ended up with almost 600 stories in those few months. And so that served as a proof point, which allowed us to spin out and turn StoryShares into a nonprofit organization with the ongoing mission of generating new books and then distributing them to the readers in need. And at the core of this model was that initial writing contest, which became an annual contest, and which we now do every year as a huge call for submissions to get the stories in that we use to then curate, edit, publish, and build our library. So it is a sort of a unique publishing model in that sense. It's community-based and crowdsourced, and it's for a unique niche content, these reimagined high interest lower literacy stories.
And the books are wonderful. I've enjoyed the ones I've read tremendously, and it's such an interesting Genesis story, and you have a really robust staff of wonderful editors and designers that really shape this material these really great submissions into, quality production books for any home library or public library. So just really, really cool. You mentioned your sourcing is through this writing contest model. Your next deadline is the end of this calendar year, correct? In December, so the New Year's Eve, if you will.
Yes.
And when you and I were talking about first partnering together, we were like, oh, that that really aligns well with Teentober coming up in October, something that the ALA has been really supporting, teen librarians, teen patrons. Obviously, writing is something that teens are getting more and more into. Youth publishing is booming. A lot of your submissions come from young writers, not all, but some. And of course, NaNoWriMo is a big kind of observance now, where a lot of people challenge themselves to write a novella or novel during the month of November. So considering all that, we thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we worked together to provide support materials to libraries to help them with programming from October through December, with the end result of having patrons submit their work to StoryShare. So, and that's exactly what we did, right, Louise?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We love the full circle piece of the literacy equation, thinking about the reader side and the writer side and how they all fit together, because to your point, we are encouraging writers of any level and age to create stories along a certain lines, and so we are also focused on supporting and guiding them in how to create craft stories that will be compelling, how to craft characters that will be relatable to the audience that you're intending to serve. And so the reading and writing pieces are fitting together really nicely with our Baker and Taylor partnership in this new writing workshop that we're planning to do. It will be a way that we can connect, the Teen Literacy Month, the library programming, NaNoWriMo, and the StoryShares contest, giving teens an opportunity to craft their own stories that they can publish through StoryShares ebook publisher and book builder tool, and then submit in time for the contest to potentially, win one of the big prizes and be published to our collection, distributed through Baker and Taylor to libraries across the country. So love the way it brings all the pieces together.
That's super fun, really energizing. So just to kind of bring a little bit more context to this, we've worked with Louise and her team of editors to build an 8-week writing workshop program, giving you all the tools, all the prompts, all the kind of different pillars of writing craft and how it all works together in a brochure, essentially, a PDF downloadable ready brochure that you can literally just ask a writer in the community to lead, or you yourself, the librarian, can lead easily, virtually or in person, and then submit to StoryShares. Louise mentioned that these books will be distributed through Baker and Taylor StoryShares books. So currently they're available in paperback, but what we're doing at Baker and Taylor is we're going to be putting them into our guaranteed library binding, our paw prints pre-bind binding. So you, the librarian, will be able to bring all of their wonderful books, 50 of their the best-selling high-low books into your collection, and that information will be available to you on our website. And we will also be hosting the ebook versions of these titles too. So ultimately, some of your patrons could be StoryShares writers and see their names on the shelves at your library, and all with the idea of supporting your community and community outcomes, community engagement, and readers of all stripes. So super excited. Louise, thank you for allowing us to partner with you guys on such a cool project.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're really excited. We're excited to get our books into libraries and to get our writing programming into libraries and give more, voices the chance to reach others around the world.
Now, so part of that 8-week writing workshop is, as I said, each week kind of focuses on a different element of craft, dialogue, plot, pacing, right? And we decided it would be cool to kind of feature a different story shares book as a model for each of those pillars. And I believe you have a couple of them with you, and they happen to be favorites of yours from your list. So do you want to just share a couple story shares books to round things out here?
Sure, perfect. Yeah, so I brought a couple of our books for some context, and they are sort of between short story and novella length. So you can see they're graspable, and that's part of it, the format piece for students to be able to, skim through something quickly and say, oh, that's not too daunting. I can read that. But then when they dive in, it's about a 16-year-old getting in trouble, and they're engaged in that way as well. Yeah, so this, I believe that Jacob and the Bee Man, which is one of my favorites, is one of the first books that we're using in the writing workshop. And part of that is because it is it's written at around a first grade reading level, with, as I mentioned, a 16-year-old boy as the main character. And the author, Kelly Winters, really mastered the craft of what we call the art of clarity in her sentences. Really powerful sentences, quality writing, but in concise and graspable ways, almost Hemingway-esque, as we like to talk about sometimes. And so so this book will be one of the ones that students can read as and as an exemplar of some of those well-crafted, compelling sentences when we kind of dive into that clarity piece, which is core to the Story Shares model. And then we'll also, touch on a lot of the other key pieces, building strong characters, how to, craft a compelling plot, and how to treat dialogue such that it is not too hard to follow. All of those pieces that can come together in the end into a fully formed story.
That's awesome. Yes, economical Hemingway. That's what I always think of when I think of his writing and the writing style and Jacob and the Bee Man. So great example, Louise. That's just one of many titles in your portfolio, one of 50 titles that will now be available in a library bound edition for you to bring into your libraries and beef up your high-low collection. So you can visit cats.baker-taylor.com for more information on that. And any parting words, Louise? Happy fall. Thank you for everything you and your team do for literacy, learning, empowering young people, empowering adults who may feel left behind sometimes. Super important. And I know the librarians watching appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. We're really excited to be able to, reach more readers through you all and through all of the librarians out there. So thank you. We're gearing up for our next writing contest, so keep an eye out for that on storyshares.org. And we hope to engage teens and adults at every level, from reading to writing side of things. So thank you all, and looking forward to getting these books out there.
Thanks so much, Louise. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.